You lead the discussion on the next topic now.
All right. Well, the admission of Morocco into the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has been on debate in recent times for now. Now, the country will know its fate in December when ECOWAS heads of state meet.
Yeah, let's watch this next report now and get the background to the discussion.
Morocco's application to join ECOWAS came after it rejoined the African Union in January 2017. The country had left the continental body in 1984 after AU's recognition of Western Sahara, a territory that Morocco regards as part of its historic region. Participants at this gathering are here to deliberate on whether the absorption will be beneficial to other West African states.
This one-day forum is a unique opportunity for us to carefully interrogate this ascension of ECOWAS, of Morocco into ECOWAS, to examine the opportunities and threats, and to come up with a policy statement in order to actually engage it.
The gathering also notes that Nigeria has been playing the role of mother goose within the regional body for years.
So what do they actually want to get in terms of being members of ECOWAS when they are not West African members? Don't also forget that Morocco has always held an observer status with ECOWAS since 2005. So what is the difference in terms of why then have a full membership?
They recommended that ECOWAS should not accept Morocco into the regional body without certain conditions, as other countries can also leverage on economic and political opportunities the country may offer.
So many people are skeptical about Morocco, but we have joining us from our Abuja studio, Professor Ken Ife. He's an economist, and he'll give us insight into understanding the quest for Morocco to join the Economic Community of West African State. Professor Ife, good morning. It's good to have you join us.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Very great. Now, would you make us understand, Morocco is not even in West Africa, and the quest to join Economic Community of West African States, not so many people are very comfortable with it. Could there be any reason why they should join ECOWAS?
I think Nigeria has every reason to be nervous about Morocco's full entry into ECOWAS Commission. The reason being that it will cause some economic, diplomatic, and political difficulties in the short term, but it will normalize in the medium to long term. And, for you to really understand this, let's take you back a little bit. In 1984, Morocco left African Union, protesting the African Union recognition of the Western Sahara. Now, January this year, they came back into African Union. Also, they are moving very, very robustly. They've been to Nigeria. They want to do a gas pipeline, submarine gas pipeline from Nigerian coast all the way through to around West Africa to Morocco, and from there to Europe. You know, they are very close to Europe. And then that, in a way, is intended to undermine Algeria, because Algeria is not in the best of terms with Morocco. Algeria is already on a continental trans-Saharan pipeline, gas pipeline with Nigeria to go through the Sahara, and the same way heading down to Europe. So that is on one hand. Then on the other hand, they also done a deal with Nigeria on phosphate blending plant, where they will be sending some of their phosphate derivatives, because they are I think, the third largest in terms of phosphate resources for fertilizer. So they're bringing that into Nigeria, and that is good news, because we'll keep the jobs, we'll need the fertilizer. So in those two counts, they really mean to do business. But they're very, very aggressive about that. And it is this commercial aggression that is likely to cause ripples in the ECOWAS community.
Now, there is no accession clause.
And I can further explain that.
Okay. Okay, go ahead then.
Yes. Now, the thing is, it's too early for them to join the community, they should wait for the next 2-3 years for us to have the continental Africa Free Trade Area. Now then everybody becomes part of an African Free Trade Area, so there will not be any reason to join because we're already all in the African orbit. But if they join now, the difficulty for Nigeria is that we don't have a veto power in Nigeria, in ECOWAS. We are 60%, 65% of ECOWAS in terms of population, in terms of resources, and we contribute over 70% of ECOWAS funding. And then we have no veto power like America has in other world bodies. So it then means that we are just 1 out of 15. Now bringing them in will further dilute us, and it will also challenge our regional economic leadership and our global position in the world. So that's the danger on that front. And also the second one is that, you know, the likes of man says that EPA, that is the European Economic Partnership Agreement, is equal to the decision of Nigeria. Now they will see this coming as a way of bringing in EPA through the back door. In one respect, you know, Morocco is very industrialized. It's far more. It's a small country though, 33 million people with GDP much lower than Nigeria, $103 billion GDP. But it punches beyond its weight because it has far more advanced manufacturing capacities. It assembles cars, even the sardine we eat. You know, they bring sardines from Morocco. They do phosphate, as I said, fertilizer, big import exporter. They also have oil, even renewable energy. They hope that in the next 3 years, they will have 50% of their energy from renewable. So they have robust manufacturing capacity, which will immediately come through the most prized market, which is Nigerian big market in the region. So that is where it challenges. And anything smuggling itself through ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, ETLS, and then our common external tariff regime, will simply push all these products right into Nigeria and undermine the infant industry protection of the 17 licenses we have given out for car assembly and all the fledgling infrastructure deficit industrial base. So they will all face that challenge if they just jump in at this very moment.
Now one wonders really in whose interest or gain is Morocco's ascension to ECOWAS. If you look at it, the country is already in so many agreements with many of the West African countries, but yet its trade ties with it is still less than $1 billion US annually. Even less than 4% of Morocco's annual exports and even 2% of its global trade. So in whose interest, really? Morocco's or West African countries mostly?
Well, Morocco will see it as pure commercial aggression. They want to expand their market. They have industrial base. They want to expand market for that. Nigeria is just target. With our 189 million population, backed by purchasing power, we have oil, we have all that. They will see it as the clear market for industrial goods. And then you know that car is one big market. They are assembling cars, and we are not. At the moment, although we are in unison, and but there will be sharp competition. And also, you know, we are wrestling to curtail the 400,000 second-hand cars being imported through Cotonou and all that. But they will come in with their new cars as exploiting ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme. You cannot tax those. You can't no tax, no duties because they are under the ETLS regime. So that will be real confrontation with our own manufacturing base. So that's why it's a challenge. But I think, you know, one thing that they could do is that they could do a trade and investment framework agreement with ECOWAS, just as we've done with China, with America, with Brazil. They can also do a bilateral, which is okay, and they're already doing that. Or if they are in dire need of expanding their export capacity, let them come into our industrial trade-free zone and set up an industry there. What's wrong with that? We will take 40% of what they produce into Nigeria without a doubt, and they can move the rest to other regions in Africa. And that should be an easiest way for them to move forward straight away. All right.
Now, Prof, the issue of the Western Sahara is quite controversial. That was the reason why Morocco left EU in the first place. As of now, we know the status of Western Sahara. Nigeria, as a country, has some level of recognition for Western Sahara. So, what kind of controversy, or what kind of interrelationship will exist, or conflict, if I have to put it that way, will exist between Morocco, that is coming in or intends to come into ECOWAS, which will be a significant member, and then Nigeria, which is the most significant member?
I think they've gone beyond that, because they haven't waited for resolution, complete resolution of the Western Sahara issue, and they came back into Africa again, Africa Union this January. I think they're looking beyond that, and in fact they were actually going to attend the last ECOWAS summit of heads of states, but the reason that they didn't was because Israeli Prime Minister was attending. So they shelved it. So they will be coming to the next one. I think they're looking beyond that, and they just want to do the business. They're not realizing that and they're not the only one. They've been observing, they've been having observer status. Even Mauritania now wants to join. Mauritania opted out, but only opted in for economic partnership agreement. But now they want to come in. Some other country like Tunisia wants observer status. So I think, you know, let me play the devil's advocate. If you know that COMESA is from Cairo down to South Africa, to Cape Coast, now, and that is 19 countries. The whole is like dividing Africa vertically into two. Half of it are in the COMESA region. So it may well be, I'm not going to speak for them, it may well be that they are looking at the other half, which is the northern Sahel region countries coming in and collapsing with West Africa to now form the counterforce to COMESA. But you know, that may well be, but I don't know. But so you can see, but I can see the commercial drive. Okay, their growth rate is just 1.5% last year, and their GDP is about $103 billion, and approximately the same kind of GDP per capita as Nigeria. But the thing is that they are driven by their industrial might at the moment. That is what I see. And they just want to find the market, the market for their goods.
All right, thank you for staying with us, Professor. Now, this plot by Morocco to join ECOWAS, and of course, the reluctance of Nigeria anyway in signing the EPA, which of course Morocco is signatory to. Don't you see this as a ploy by Morocco to take over the leadership of the continent?
Well, I don't see it exactly in those terms, but there are dangers which they portend, being that we will be opening up our market inadvertently. Because if they are part of the European agreement and ECOWAS is in there already, the tenuous link is the ETLS. ETLS is ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme. Anything manufactured in the ECOWAS region or can demonstrate more than 30% value addition automatically will move through the region duty-free and tax-free. So that is the challenge. So with their manufacturing industrial base, which is very strong, although relative to their size, they're assembling cars, they are doing phosphate. We're already doing deal with them on phosphate, so that doesn't bother me. The fish they're sending into us, canned fish and stuff, what can you do about that? We are building up our own, but then that has to. So we find that even though you won't get Forex to buy them, to order them in, you know, but then they will now come in as under ETLS regime. So there are some of those challenges. But then there is the dilution of the Nigerian regional power base that in ECOWAS. That is one that you know, would make diplomats worry. Because Nigeria is a regional power, both regional economic and regional political power. And we have flexed it in many respects to maintain peace in the region. And we have a lot of respect for us for doing that. So, you know, so that's where the counterforce is going to come. And also being French-speaking, and we know that 8 of 15 members are also French-speaking. I don't know. The internal dynamics will change considerably. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And when I argued about EPA, and I was saying, wait a minute, you know, the problem we have with the EPA, apart from all problems, is that in the 75% of the goods that have to be liberalized over the 20 years, we do not have policy space. We have policy space in the 25% that will not be liberalized, which means we can have resort to or recourse to to trade defense mechanisms and all these industry protection mechanisms and all that. But the ones that are under that 75%, we can't do much because there's a joint implementation committee between Europe and West Africa. So if you want to impose anything or do anything, no policy, you got to go to them. They have to agree, they have to approve it, and you know it will never happen. Because they will tell you, oh, wait a minute, there are 28 countries in Europe that have agreed this, you know, they can change this easily. You know, so that's part of the argument. So when they enter into this back door now, they were going to be open. Really, the industry we are fighting to protect will become more of an issue. But under this circumstance now, you see that they have to bring their phosphate in shiploads to Nigeria to blend in Nigeria. You know, they have to come here and do gas pipeline. So there are investments. I'm saying bring those your investment to 34 free trade zones that we have. And let's start singing and dancing until we have the continental free trade area in the next 2 or 3 years. And then that opens up every economy.
All right, looking at the other side of the coin now, in Morocco joining the ECOWAS, would it not sharpen the edges where Nigeria has been redundant when it comes to the African continent, the ECOWAS nations? Will Nigeria not sit up? Would it not make Nigeria sit up better to look up to its responsibilities because they know that another capable hand has joined the group?
Well, of course, the whole thing is all driven by competition. But you know, our infrastructure is so underdeveloped. So that affects competition, our competitiveness. So it's not a problem you are going to. So the ICRC said that they need $100 billion to cure our infrastructure deficit, and you don't have the money. So you're going to take time. Whatever you do, you haven't got the power. Because the power input is 40%. Then you have transportation, about 20 to 30% transportation cost. So we are so constrained by infrastructure deficit in a way that the other party is not. So we will have to struggle. But I think they need to do more. Nigeria should wrestle out more business with them, you know, before they join. Let them keep in the observer status for another 2 years, and then let's see if we can do some more stuff with them, and then wait for CFTA.
Yeah, and in doing more stuff, really, because like you said earlier, it seems like Nigeria's hands are already tied. About 12 countries in the group are supporting ECOWAS already. But how can Nigeria capitalize on this to shore up its trade exports?
Well, sorry, I didn't get the question. Sorry, I didn't get that.
So how can Nigeria now, of course, the present administration is saying that it wants to diversify, for example, improve agriculture and even start exporting agriculture produce, for example. So how can Nigeria capitalize on this now, the possible admission of Morocco into ECOWAS to improve and enhance its own exportation, especially to Morocco and maybe to the North African region later on?
Okay, well, Morocco is only 33 million people anyway, and they are not big importers of anything. In fact, the agriculture is even stronger in the sense that they even lower average. But the fact is that it is not to Morocco that we will look to export. But what we need to export to other constituencies where there is demand is to build our quality infrastructure. We haven't got that. For us to be compliant on sanitary and phytosanitary requirements and meet the technical barriers, overcome the technical barriers and technical specification, and then some of the non-tariff barriers that are haunting us from Europe, you know, what they call the precautionary principles and all this stuff. I have discussed this extensively in other media. So those are the things. It's not, they're not our destination for export. But the thing is that their phosphate, their joint venture phosphate thing, bringing this is helpful to our agriculture, without a doubt, because we spend billions on importing phosphate products. But then now with blending plants, then there will be support for our agriculture. But where we need more is a value addition, manufacturing capacity. That is where we need help. And I don't really see that they would add to that.
All right. ECOWAS has agreed in principle to consider Morocco, although it would take some other processes before it becomes a full member. So it looks like nothing is stopping Morocco from joining ECOWAS. But in this case now, what strategic steps should Nigeria be taking ahead of Morocco joining so that they can maintain their status and also be that influential on the sub-region?
I think it's about dialogue. You know, we don't have a veto. No, to be honest with you, Nigeria ought to have had a veto in ECOWAS, because you cannot be 60–65% of the size and contributing much more than that, 70%, and then you don't have any veto at all. Even though you've considered presidency and vice presidency, but you should at least have had a veto, because anything that is economic that could harm you, you should veto it. But we don't have that, so it has to be negotiation. And I've heard Professor Adeyemi, you know, former minister, go to the extreme of saying Nigeria should threaten to leave ECOWAS. And then I've had others that have voiced very, very similar strong concerns. I don't think we need to get down to that level, because ultimately we are heading to a continental free trade area anyway, which will be a single trade area for Africa. So they will still be there. But I think we need to persuade our colleagues in the region that, you know, let the sleeping dog lie, because Nigeria is still trying to negotiate in or out of EPA. We are still talking about that, trying to see what will be the best way to sort ourselves out with Europe, and that they are going to compound it by just admitting Morocco. They should just, you know, let them observe for the next 2 years. Let us sort out our EPA situation with European Partnership Agreement.
Yeah, but how should Nigeria go about it? Because foreign ministers of some of these countries, like Ivory Coast, are already speaking in favor of Morocco. And even Morocco itself sees Nigeria majorly as the stumbling block to its accession to ECOWAS. So what kind of, what should be the content of the kind of dialogue Nigeria should start having now with its fellow members?
Well, the dialogue is about saying to them, look, gentlemen, we've all been with this APA. I haven't joined you. You've all signed. Gambia may sign then, but we're still out of it. I know you all want us to join you in this agreement, but give me time. We need time, because we are trying to digest some of the issues that are peculiar to Nigeria, which are mainly industrial. Very, very industrial in scope. So give us little time to sort this out. If Morocco comes in, Morocco would want to exploit the fact of EPA and their position with you to dump their industrial goods to us. And that's not going to help us, because we are going to use our levy instrument and target any products coming from Morocco and use levy to augment the CET tariff. So is this what you want? Do you want a trade war of some sort? No, let's take it easy. Anything they want to do, doing business with Nigeria on these two counts, the pipeline, the phosphate. If you want to do anything with them individually on the side, fine. If you want to do let's do a trade framework agreement, a TIFA, trade and investment framework agreement with them, so that we can be trading much more effectively. Anything short of just immediate membership. But the membership will just disrupt the configuration. And there's a configuration problem, of course, because they are part of a different EPA and you are part of a different PA. There's a configuration problem between them being in two blocks, in two negotiations. So, you know, you got to recognize that.
All right. Certainly, ECOWAS is founded based on the economy, on the economic benefit of member states. But certainly when it comes to politics, international politics and regional politics, we've seen how body languages and alignment, realignment has assisted giving edges here and there to some countries and so on. We remember some time where Haiti or Jamaica applied to be member of the African Union. Now, when countries that are not regionally involved or have borders with some countries applying to become members of such kind of organizations, do we see the benefits even going beyond economy to the issue of social, military, politics and other areas?
The political one is not an issue. Because in most of the political decision making, you will just have to add votes. Political is not contiguous. Contiguity is about the economy. It's the economic side that your geographical contiguity makes a sense, because you have to move goods from one boundary to another boundary, and then you have common road traffic, you have more rail, you have power pool lines, you have all that dams that are shared. So that is where contiguity means more is in the economic side of it, not on the political, not on the diplomatic. So that is why they need to see that they are not there. They don't share any common boundary with us. So most of the infrastructure programs that we are going to be spending our money on, they're going to be saying, but how does that concern them? You know, building highway roads, building more rail lines, building that they're not benefiting. It's just like the same argument that Cape Verde would have. They say, look, they are right there in the middle of the sea. You know, what is it in need for them? So we've got to look more at an aviation side of things that would, and then look at finance and ICT as an area where they might benefit more than investments in physical infrastructure.
And perhaps this is a lesson to Nigeria, and of course that it can venture outside its region as well to benefit its own economy. Thank you for your analysis on the show at this time. Professor Ken Ife, you are an economist, and of course you joined us from our studio in Abuja.